with this censorship that we deal with on the mainstream tech platforms like YouTube and Twitter and Facebook. So that's why. Anyways, we're going to start now on those platforms that I was just complaining about. And good morning to everybody, and welcome to the most positive morning of your day. I've been chatting for a minute or so here with everybody who is on Locals. If you haven't subscribed to Locals yet, the domain is honkingforfreedom.locals.com. You can go there and sign up, and I would greatly appreciate it. And it will benefit you too, because if by any chance you want to come out to the book launch that will be happening later on this year, the triage that we're running for tickets, the people who have the first opportunity to get tickets to that event will be people who are on Locals. Now, where are my comments? Oh, Robin is here on YouTube. Good morning in big letters. I hope all of you have your morning coffee if you haven't had it yet, like I haven't, or your morning tea if you happen to be, I don't know, a Brit. Like I always say, I say that because one of my best friends is a Brit, and that's a constant argument between the two of us. So I hope you have your coffee with you. I hope you're relaxed. I hope if you're working while this is going on, we'll do our best together to make this the best morning of our day. Now, the last thing I got to do is I got to start up the Instagram feed. You know what's funny is the amount of engagement on Instagram. Now I know why certain other creators started their streams on Instagram, because there's something with the algorithm for whatever reason. It's preferential in some, for aggregating new followers. But so we're just going to set up the Instagram. So as I was saying, let's make this the most positive morning of our week, even better than yesterday. And yesterday was it was an amazing morning. For me, it was an amazing afternoon. I had mentioned that I have to get a full set of brakes on my truck, which has disc brakes. If you're in trucking, you know that usually means premium. And the fact that I have a Volvo also usually means it's a premium. So I was hoping, if I was lucky, that the total repair would run below $7,500. I'm not lucky, not even close. So that was my afternoon. But what are you going to do? We all deal with this in our daily lives. Good morning, Megan. We all deal with look at all the good morning. We all deal with this on somewhat of a regular basis. Bills creep up that we never anticipated. We didn't think it would. This sort of thing would happen. Whatever. What are you going to do? That's life. It's just money, and I know a lot of people really obsess over that stuff. I never really have. I've never been, obsessed with money in that way, where it's just a tool. It's like a screwdriver. It's like a hammer. It's not something in the toolbox that you use to go through your life and to solve problems. And it shouldn't be, in my opinion, all-consuming. That's why I don't really get all that upset. Like, okay, so I'm just going to have to double up on a couple of more loads and pay for it as quickly as possible. It is what it is, right? So my motorcycle engine threw a rod the other week. Oh, that sucks, man. What kind of bike do you have? Tell me. I sold my bike, 4 years ago now? And, every other, once in a while, sometimes I regret it and sometimes I don't. I regret it because I love that bike. I had what was called, if anybody who knows motorcycles, I had a Honda RC51, or if you're in Europe, it's an SP1 RSV. And it's a V-twin 1,000cc racing motorcycle. And but I was never using it. The last couple of years, I just wasn't using it. I had no time. And now I have even less time. So I felt bad. It was just sitting there in the garage rotting. And it started to become a hindrance that, every few weeks I'd have to start it up. I'd have to check the air in the tires and all that sort of stuff. And I figured it would just be, it's a very kind of a rare bike, so I figured it's better to go into somebody who is an enthusiast for that sort of bike, and so I sold it. An Indian FTR 1200. Oh, okay, so there you go. That's a nice bike, and that sucks. Don't those have SS engines, if I'm not mistaken? I don't remember. It's been so many years since I worked at Harley Davidson. That's why I was wearing the Harley Davidson shirt the other day, by the way. So I'm sorry to hear that, man. And so both of us are having a great week with repairs. But what are you going to do? That's life, right? Just kind of move on. So I mentioned Honking For Freedom .locals.com. There is a Honking For Freedom Telegram chat as well. There is the second triage for getting tickets to the live event, which people are just starting to work on, and that is BJdichter.substack.com. I'm going to get this all kind of homogenized soon. I have a plan for that moving forward, but yeah, just check out all that sort of stuff, and let me. If people on Instagram don't mind, I just got to do something that I was going to do earlier, which is, I have this little checklist that I got to tweet and retweet stuff and post stuff and all that sort of stuff. And there's so much stuff going on all at once that I want to do, I'm trying to make it the least number of things that I need to do, but the maximum penetration in terms of other platforms and all that sort of stuff. So sometimes it's difficult also, with this particular platform being a one-man show, but I think that's the way to go. I think it's better than, having a couple other people here, or at least one other people setting up. It's just, I don't know. I want this to be authentic and just us hanging out, having a conversation, and that's it. And I think once you introduce that dynamic, you lose a little bit of that. So I want to stick to the format that we're doing right now. So anyways, I hope all of you are doing amazing. I hope this week is going to be amazing for all of you. And so... Hashtag, I put this yesterday, hashtag nothing to do with truckers. Did you notice the ArriveCan app is being dropped along with the COVID mandates? So we can take a sip to that. And I watched that and I thought, I wonder what people are thinking. Morning hitchhiker. Bob, both my bikes are sitting, so sad. Well, Bob, that's the nature of when you have multiple bikes or multiple vehicles. I had one time I had my car, I had a Corvette, and I had a motorcycle, and I didn't have time for any of them. But all it was trying to keep track of maintenance and oil changes and stuff. So that's when I kind of switched and went minimalist in my life, and just one car only, and just very scaled back my lifestyle. And I got to tell you, the amount of stress it alleviated was huge. But sorry to hear that, man. Let me know what kind of bikes you have as well. So the ArriveCan app has been scrapped, and I got to ask all of you, what do you think? Did the Freedom Convoy achieve its goal? Did we win? Is that what happened? Because that's what I saw. It was a stretch to believe that the government was going to walk out onto the street and say, okay, we're dropping everything, right? You could tell even on the provincial level. So if we walk back, leading up to the Freedom Convoy, Ontario was back into heavy restrictions. There was talk about the passports being expanded, like the provincial passports, Doug Ford's passports, not the federal passport. The Doug Ford passport was going to be expanded potentially to pharmacies and to grocery stores, so they would starve you of medicine and food. There was masking everywhere, even though we see the odd lunatic around outside wearing a mask. And I don't say lunatic attacking them. I say that with sympathy because I feel bad for them. I really do. They've been so brainwashed and are so fearful of everything around them. They think this is. They think we're living in the plague. It's really concerning. But anyways. So yeah, is this a win for all of us from the Freedom Convoy? Because it was difficult to say they were going to come out and say, okay, thank you for everything, and we're going to scrap it now. So with the provincial ones, like I was saying before, we were going in the opposite direction. We were locking everything down. Everything was getting, Everything was getting more restrictive. And once the convoy was there for a few days, like we could see, I don't pay too much attention to fake news, but you could see the fake news would be trickling into Twitter and social media. That's kind of how I gauged it. And you could see this is how political parties work because they're all completely disingenuous. They would be testing messaging. So there was a couple of days there where Doug Ford was saying the opposite one day to the next. And that's a political party testing messaging, right? And that's those are our leaders, right? Can't make a fucking decision. They got to they got to test everything, and so we saw that happening for a couple of days. And I remember seeing that the first day when Doug Ford started to show the sign of a crack. That I can't remember specifically what he said, but indicated the opposite of the current platform, the current strategy. And I thought, he's going to drop it. He's going to have no choice. He's going to drop it. And he did. He did, as well as did all the other provinces did. Now, they didn't do it right away, and they all do it to save face, hashtag nothing to do with truckers. It's, there's new data that we didn't see. It's just sitting here under the rug. We just found it, like that kind of bullshit that they all do. It's so funny. And ultimately, even BC, I think, was the last one to do it. They dropped their mask mandates in April, if I'm not mistaken, April 6th, April 8th, something like that. I could be wrong on that. So anyways, I think that was the victory on the provincial level. Now, the federal level, if they were smart and competent, which we know they aren't, they would have figured out messaging at that point to start introducing it. And what I tried to trickle out in media, and I mentioned it a few times, was the United Kingdom had dropped its mandates for entering into the country. And you'd think people in our media, in our government, just are a little bit smarter, but really they are the dumbest mofos. You'll ever meet some of them. And what I was trying to communicate was, listen, all we want in Canada is for Canada to come in line with other countries like England. If we adopted what England did, which was a strategy over like a week or 2 weeks, to drop all the mandates and go back to normal, then the convoy would have been over. We've been out of there. But, like I say many times, Trudeau, Butts, Omar, the rest of them, they're all just extremists. And extremists don't understand worldviews beyond there because they lack the intellectual capacity to do so. And they were trapped. The only thing they could do is just double down on their existing strategy because they don't understand how other people think. It's like what they say about the far right. That's what they are. They're the far right, but they're left, and there really is no far right. That's a whole other issue. So I think, and the other thing is we have to, when we look at these things, especially the cultural change that we're trying to put forward. To more freedoms in Canada and more broadly Western societies, it's a long game. Like, it is not you press a button and everything changes. Like, it takes a while. It's going to be a grind. It was a grind to get here. The postmodernists really got moving in the 60s in the United States and in Canada and Western nations. And it took up until now till they got to the highest levels of government. So we're 60 years into this, almost 60 years into this. So it's going to take a while. It's going to take a generation or so of pushing back until we get people who can think clearly and still have the ability, the cognizant ability to think rationally, right? And, I mentioned yesterday, we all know, at least many of us who've read enough of these books by Cialdini and people like him, people make our decisions emotionally, but we post-rationalize them. So that process of post-rationalizing our decisions, it's just going to take a generational change to do so. So I think we can celebrate the arrive can becoming optional, meaning what'll happen is, and that's how they're saving face. Again, political messaging. We'll make it optional, so it won't look like we're backing down. And then over 6 months, a year and a half, when nobody is using it anymore, they'll just quietly cancel the program. That's exactly how it's going to transpire, right? And what we have to do is we have to make sure that there is no longer any excuse for them to try to reenact the arrive can and make it compulsory again. So the pressure needs to continue. It can't stop. So great, arrive can is is over, but now we got to do why arrive can or any similar replacement will never be imposed in Canada, right? So that's what are they going to do? I don't know. I think how in Canada, if you fly into Toronto, now you scan your passport yourself in these digital machines. Well, that is a point of entry for data collection like ArriveCan. So at least they're not collecting the data on your phone, which is what my main concern was. That was my biggest concern with all of this. But will they utilize those apparatuses in the airport to aggregate health data? I think right now they've been spanked so hard that we don't have to worry about it right now. But in the near future, yes, we'll have to just keep an eye on that, right? Beth says, I'd like to know what they will do with all the data they collected with the app. This is personal and confidential info. The server needs to be deleted and reformatted. And I'll tell you something, I don't think you need to worry about that. The government is so incompetent and disorganized. This is why most conspiracy theories, they're just, if you understand a little bit about how the government works, that you know immediately it's all nonsense because they're all completely incompetent. They have no idea. Like, do you know that data that they collected? Do you have any idea how it's spread around? I don't, and I guarantee they don't. And whoever was working on the ArriveCan program will be reshuffled to another ministry in another area, and then somebody who designed some of the programming stuff, he will move and it'll get lost, and they're all different servers. Like, the government is a hot mess on the inside. And I know from enough, like, I've never worked for the government, but I know enough family and friends who've worked for the government, and they've explained to me and given me, specific examples in their areas of how dysfunctional the government is. That's why conspiracy theories are usually nonsense. And this is no different. So if you're worried about your data has been collected by the government and there's some organized group of people who can go comb through your data and understand what's going on, no, that's not how bureaucracy works. Over the long term, all that data is going to be lost. So I wouldn't worry about it. Ryan C7, I think they pulled back on it because of the Peckford trial coming up. They're going to try to call it moot. No, it has nothing to do with the Peckford case. They don't care about that. That's a whole other wing of theatrics from the other side. We'll get more into that over the next few months. And the only thing I would tack on to that is, who sabotaged the Freedom Convoy? Because that might be related in some way, shape, or form. Okay, so the gravel truck gets all the road time. Oh, okay. Well, I see. You got an '85 Suzuki Madura. Oh, cool. Very cool. I have a buddy of mine who's big into bikes from the late '70s and early '80s. and he's got 6 or 7 of them. He would definitely love that. It's cool. We haven't stopped the agenda yet. Yeah, I mean the agenda, like that's the whole thing. Like, yeah, you have this World Economic Forum and these veiled communists around the world. The thing is, are they trying to interfere in our governance? Yes. How do they do that? Through lobbyists, which is why I'm often crowing about lobbyists like I was yesterday on Twitter. Because the World Economic Forum, many of these lobby firms, together, it's the world's largest money laundering scheme for politicians in human history. It's global. That's all it is. It's bribery. So when I type, in Twitter, lobbyist or lobbying, you could just replace that with the word bribery, and that's how it works. One day, maybe on one of these streams, I'll explain how the corruption of money moves within political circles. Right now, there's, and they don't think I know, there's hundreds of thousands of dollars moving hands from different organizations on the conservative side, as well as on the liberal side, to control messaging. Because one thing these people are, they're obsessed with control because none of them deserve it. So this is not unique to the progressive side. This is just it's a feature of the political class, right? Much of it is made up of people who have very few skills other than being sneaky, but they're obsessed with being in control because when they were kids, there were people who were stuffed in the lockers. That's our political class. Anyways, but the more we know, the better we are, because then we can kind of anticipate. That's why it's so, for me, it's so easy to predict how people are going to behave, what's going to happen in elections. I think the Conservatives are already on their way to losing their next election, and I'll explain that if they don't do an about-face very quickly. They're all doing exactly the same strategy they did the last 2 times around. And people always ask me, what about Pierre? And I keep saying Pierre's not the problem. It's Pierre is fine. It's the apparatus of leeches around him that make up that party, and that's where the problem is. And they're going to lose the next one if they don't shape up. So it's time for all of you. It's going to be time for all of you to start to speak up if you want this all to end. Is there still dental masks in dental offices and hospitals anywhere else? I don't know. Well, listen, masks were always in hospitals. It was so funny during the convoy, because clearly there were mask mandates during the convoy. Like, that's how far we've come from the convoy. Like, that first weekend we were there, masks were still mandated everywhere. And it was the first time people could come out and just said, screw it, we're not doing any masks. And when I broke my ankle, I posted a picture of myself somewhere in the hospital because people were asking, where am I, whatever. And I was in my, the hospital garbs they give you, and I had a mask, and people started yelling, see, he's a fraud, he's wearing a mask. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm in a hospital, you douchebag. I'm about to go into surgery. I have no choice. It's either I get my surgery or I don't. I'm not going to argue with them here. I have no choice. Like, God, it was so funny. So funny how people, but that's also from the group of people that I think might have been part of the people that were trying to sabotage us, because they try to do it with messaging, because they're weasels. They'll never do it to your face. It's always, over Twitter, right? We still need to keep Sonia, 100%. We still need to keep fighting. And agreed. So don't let it go. And I think also the word fighting, I like the word advocating. We still need to keep advocating for our freedoms and remind our politicians that freedom is not negotiable. So, but yeah, that's a small distinction. Lisa, who's on Facebook, the Pfeffer Challenge is going to court today, and they're trying to have it thrown out by removing the mandates. Yeah, that could be part of it. Look, there's so much I can talk about this. There really is so much I can talk about, because I now understand all these people, the organizations, how they're all tied together and whatever. The only thing I would just say is there's a lot of people who do a lot of things and they fundraise a lot and they don't win a lot of cases. I'll get more into that over the next couple of months. Probably the best time will probably be after the book is launched and you've read it, because I know when the book is launched, we kept it to just about 50,000 words. We can't address everything. And I'm going to put a lot of additional stuff in the Substack, and you're all going to have a lot of questions, because I think it's going to make people realize that, that's what was going on behind the scenes. And I would love nothing more than to explain to all of you, kind of the nuance of all the little details, which is part of the motivation of building the stream that will allow us to have those conversations. And that's why I also ask you, if you can, like, share, subscribe, share this with other people, because this is going to be an opportunity for us to kind of, go through all of these things in detail and all understand it. Hitchhiker, the gun registry was ordered deleted. They didn't, and Quebec got a copy. So, yeah, but again, 100%. But man, they're so, like, you work in trucking, you know how disorganized dispatch can be. That is nothing compared to how disorganized the government is, because it's so big. Everything gets lost. I mean, I grew up with a teacher, right? And a teacher who had like a lot of administrative roles. Like, it was just that, even on that level, the school was such a mess. And then when you go into the Ministry of Education, like, we all have to be aware of how big the government is. Like, it's huge. And they try to centralize everything, and it constantly fails. So I personally am not terribly worried about my data. I think Facebook has a lot better, a lot more skills in terms of aggregating people's data compared with the government. Because also remember, sorry about this, guys. I have a friend who worked for one of the ministries for has worked in government for his entire career. But every 2 years, he's being switched from one department or one ministry to another. So everybody is cycling around. The idea that people sit in the government in one position for their entire career, that's not really the case. There are some people who choose that and get that opportunity. But that's not the vast majority of people in government, at least from what I understand and what I've been shown, is that they're all moving around. So especially as governments change, when you go from a liberal to a conservative government or whatever. So it's all going to get lost. And it's all going to get lost in that it may still be there, but maybe a hacker would hack in and be able to access it, but nobody in the government will have any clue where any of that stuff is. So I wouldn't worry about it. So I think we can celebrate that the Freedom Convoy was a success, and that ArriveCan will be optional, and we can celebrate the fact that we've helped to get some of our return to normalcy in terms of our freedoms. And I think we just got to continue. What's it called? John Bob says the freedom movement isn't dead yet. Small wins or false sense of progress. No, I think it's definitely progress. But remember, Jordan Peterson said in an interview, I think it was on Rogan, one of his earlier interviews, when he explained the strategy that they're going to move you 2 inches. And you're going to accept it. They're going to move another 2 inches, and you're going to accept it. And they're going to move another 2 inches, and then until eventually you've moved 3 feet, and you're realizing, wait, I didn't agree to this, right? Well, we need to do the same. And in order to do the same, it is a long strategy. So removing the ArriveCan and the mandates, that's just step one. We also have this free speech thing, this Bill C11, that the conservatives and the liberals were applauding in Parliament for censorship. So that should be now an issue in the next election, and people need to go after their conservative MPs and say, how can you allow this sort of nonsense, right? So go after both Liberal and Conservatives and even NDP. All of them need to hear that you're unhappy and you're willing to cut donations, because that's really the only thing they respond to. If you stop giving money to a political party and you've given money to a political party, then they start to take notice. And if enough people do it, then they'll understand it. Yeah, play the long game is the only legit choice. 100% Hitchhiker. By the way, I saw you connected with Hannah in a group chat. I hope everything's working out. Let me know if she becomes successful in finding the people for your case. So I hope that helped. I mentioned the other day that I got together with an old professor that I used to know. So my business was on a university campus, and I used to have people in faculty who were clients. This was one of our clients. And I'm just waving to everybody on Instagram. Thanks for joining. You guys are the best. C11 has gone through HOC and is now at the Senate. Yeah, so we need to get on this C11 thing. This is all part of the whole freedom movement, right? And the fact that they're trying to regulate speech, they're trying to regulate this. And it's no surprise that both the Conservatives and the Liberals are applauding that bill. It was absolutely disgusting, and we cannot let them forget it. It's just gross, right? Anyways, what am I doing? Somebody on Instagram, what am I doing? I don't know, I'm doing my weekly coffee stream, and we're all starting our day in a positive headspace, talking about some of the complexities of life, some of the good things and bad things. And we're all just hanging out together. So hopefully you have your coffee as well. Anyways, so I got together with this professor who was a... hold on, let me just right there. Who was a client of mine. So I used to have different faculties that would have corporate accounts with our business. And it was a small business. And I was in a meeting with my editor for the book and good friend. And, we've always done our weekly coffees together. And that just ended up after the convoy that, hey, let's do a book. And so we've been working on it ever since. So we were at the coffee shop, and this person, I don't want to say her name, she is retired, so there's not like there's any repercussions she would experience at work, but people want their privacy. So she saw me and she's like, "Hey, let's it's good to see you. Let's get together." So I said, "Okay, let's well, give me your number, or let's trade numbers, and we'll get together sometime soon." So we finally got together. Well, it was only a few days later. We got together yesterday, the day before. Yeah, the day before yesterday. And it was really interesting. So she was in education for obviously decades. And we were sharing stories about some of the woke nonsense we saw on Ryerson's campus, and traded some of the stories. And it's really kind of scary. That's why I got into all of this. It started around 2013, and I could see a shift in not so much the students coming in, but the students leaving, the difference from what they were like when they first came into Ryerson and when they left. And they left like full postmodern, subjectivist, just really concerning worldviews, just very confused worldviews. It's like they went into school more together than when they left. It was really quite scary. And I could also see the type of rhetoric that what people would come in and try to output, because we were a printing and graphics company, was getting more and more extreme, to the point we'd get, communist revolutionary Che Guevara nonsense. And I just, you have a business, it's got to be for everybody. And I couldn't participate in allowing that extremist stuff to grow. And I just had, more and more, wasn't having too much, but more and more stuff that I just turn away the business. I'm not interested in doing that. And just eventually got out of it because of it, because I could see how things were changing. which is why I got involved in politics, just thinking, hey, maybe I can lend a hand politically on the inside. That was kind of the motivation, right? So we traded a bunch of stories and all that sort of thing. She brought up something really interesting that I'm sure you all hear a little bit of this, and some of the women who are watching this, because I mentioned, I think 58% of the audience here are women. And she said something, you know what, and where are all the men? I thought, what do you mean? She said, why aren't men anymore? And I said, it's funny. You start to hear a lot of that stuff online, people talking about the degeneration, the emasculation of men in our society, and that it's the idea of, how do they call it, toxic masculinity, and this narrative that's coming from the far left to weaken men, to make as though they don't have the strength and fortitude, that we don't need them. We don't need men. And it's just some crazy out of control narrative. And she said, yeah, I can see it all over the place. She said, I look at such a change in our society from when she was younger of how men behaved in general, that, everybody's going to do and say things you disagree with, but at least there was some strength versus today. You see, I don't know, the lack of testosterone, let's just say, is very, very evident in certain cases. And I said, yeah, well, if you want real men, that was the Freedom Convoy. Those were the people who fight, and pardon my language if I can swear for a second, who don't give a fuck. They're gonna do what they think is right, and nobody, no government, no nothing is gonna tell them how they're going to live within reason. We're all gonna follow general civil rules of society, but once you start with this veiled communist crap, they're gonna push back, and that's what the Freedom Convoy was. And I said, it's amazing. I started to see after the first day or so, I know a lot of people found each other, like relationships. I know of 2 kids that are people that are pregnant as a result of Freedom Convoy. And before I broke my leg, when I could walk around, you could see there was this vibe. It was really weird. It was not only loving and friendly and peaceful and whatever, but amongst many people who are younger, you could tell there were people that came there to find somebody, right? There are younger men and women from Quebec or Ottawa or different places came and thought, oh, maybe it's a good place to meet somebody. And I think that's how you ended up with the dance parties. That's how you ended up with the barbecues and all that sort of stuff. Like, it became this social vibe, this party where everybody, so I think there's so many little knock-on effects that came from it, but that's where your men were. And you'll notice the whole narrative of toxic masculinity. It's called masculinity is what it is. Would not be accepted. That whole narrative opposing it would not be accepted at all. And you saw, for dare me saying this, real men there. You could see people starting to find each other. You could tell there were groups of guys and girls that started hanging out together. But there were no weak twinks there. They were real men, right? And it reminds me of, I remember I was with Andrew Scheer. I was in a meeting with Andrew Scheer just after he was elected. And talking about different ideas. I mean, he was just trying to figure out how many people that I have in my database, and that's it. That's all politicians really care about, right? But, we talked about messaging for a little bit, and I said, Andrew, your messaging should be about, it should be about strength and not about weakness. Just strength and leadership, masculinity, going back to what our society was, leadership. Don't try to don't try to focus group leadership. You're going to have to say things that people disagree with or don't like. And he looked at me like I have two heads. I'm like, oh my God, you're such a nerd. I'm like, wow. Like, it's so funny. It's so weird that when I was a kid, I don't know, for whatever reason, I was one of the kids that just didn't take any crap and helped people that were, sometimes being picked on or would fight with the bullies or whatever. And I look at our political class and like, yeah, these were all the nerds. These were all like the scared nerds who would come to me for help. This is not leadership. This is a big part of the problem, is the culture and the mindset of people in our politics. There's not one leader amongst them. It's they're trying to be, there's no question, but it's this, I don't know, they're all low testosterone. Like, it can't just be that. And I saw, like, look at Trudeau. Is that a guy who's strong? I mean, I don't know. Maybe when he's doing his thing with his boyfriend, Seamus O'Regan, then maybe he's strong. But that is not strength. That is a dweeb. He acts as though, yeah, he took a couple of boxing lessons. Guess what? A lot of us have taken boxing lessons and know how to fight. That does not make you a leader. And you can see by his mannerisms and how he behaves and his body language, even though it's controlled and managed, when it's inauthentic, you can tell. And you can tell with him that it's inauthentic. And another one is Punchy McGregor. I mean, I don't know if Punchy McGregor is married or not, but if he's married, his wife has the testicles in the relationship, not him. And these are the people that are supposed to be our leadership class. It's pathetic. No wonder that lobby firms are able to walk all over these people and tell everybody what to do. Say, no, we're going to focus group this. Like, I saw a little bit of that when I was a candidate. And some people from head office were giving me orders, do this and blah, blah, blah. I said, no, go fuck yourself is what I said. No, like, sorry. And it's funny. I did that. I don't know if I told Jordan this, but I did the Jordan Peterson personality test, and I apparently am the absolute highest possible level of disagreeableness. So I guess there's nobody in the Conservative Party that would disagree with that. But I'm not. I'm not going to be agreeable to bullshit. I'm just not. Sorry, just not going to happen. Never, no matter what. And that's what we're lacking in all of our political class. And I look at what, like I mentioned when I talked about Pierre Poilievre, I don't know, I hear all different pronunciations from people in media. I mean, let's go with Poilievre today. How about this? We'll do Poilievre. When Pierre Poilievre, when I mentioned this the other day, that he is an amazing speaker. He really is. He's like a tenured professor. That's his strength. What is his weakness? And I think the media sees it, and they were trying to exploit it. Remember that whole thing with the with David Aitken, that global news smear merchant, which, by the way, that company apparently is collapsing, and thank God, good riddance. When he was trying to rattle Pierre. And did you notice what Pierre's response was? Pierre's response was, he said, I'm going to start again. I'm going to start again. And for me, it just looked weak. And I know the political class of nerds think, oh, yeah, he handled it well. No, it was a disaster from my perspective. And I think anybody who's in kind of the trucker world, where we have to deal with conflict on a semi-regular basis, we could see it as well. And what his response should have been was, hold on, stop. Call security, throw him out, and when he leaves, say, bye-bye, say, that's how you deal with the fake news. Is there anyone next, or are you going to learn how to behave like an adult? That's how you deal with it. And you know what will happen? People on the far left will get outraged and upset. Yeah, that's the idea. You want the people who are not going to support you under any circumstances to get upset. You need to support you need to support people who have your world frame, who are in your base and the people who are in other political parties who also want to see strength and leadership. Strength and leadership will never go out of style. No matter how much the communists want to smear it, it will never go out of style. It's the reason people like myself will never, ever be canceled. I dare you. They will never cancel me because there's so many other alternatives and I'm always 5 steps ahead of them. And I don't care. And I just wish we saw some of that strength amongst our political class. If you had that and Pierre's ability to give a speech, now you have a real leader. And I think there might be some potential for that. But, they're making all sorts of mistakes. With Andrew Scheer, it was a social conservative pretending to be a liberal. With Eunuch O'Toole, it was the same thing but 10 times worse. So now they have somebody who has, how should you say, the aura of being a strong leader / conservative who can give the good speech, but the rest of the party is still going with the leftist platform. Stop it. Stop it. Be conservatives already. Because I've gotten so many calls from people the past week, even 2 days ago. And what do I tell people when they say to me, you know what, if Pierre keeps doing this, I'm going to abandon him and I'm going to turn on him. That's what they're telling me. What do you want me to do? And then because I'm the one who brings it up, I'm the one who gets attacked, right? Just like the lefties do. Like, this has got to stop. It's so frustrating. And I think all of us understand that. We all see that. So I say this, so hopefully there are people within the party, because I know there are people who monitor this, and I hope you will pass that message along that you need strength and leadership. And hey, if you need a coach, let me know. But anyways, Beth says, agreed, Pierre should have stopped and thrown Aiken out. We need a few strong men in our leadership, including politics. Agreed, 100%. I shouldn't feel like I'm a stronger leader than a leader of a political party. Like, that's not how the world should be working. It's so funny. Anyways. Sorry if that's a little bit of a rant, but I know a bunch of you agree with me. And I still maintain things are going to get better, that the horizon, things are amazing, things are going to, but these are those little sort of bumps in the road that I was talking about, that we're going to have to work through these things. And the more this group of people who are watching this together and we start talking together and we go into Twitter spaces and we come up with strategies and you go to freedom rallies and support any future trucker rallies, which maybe there will be one. If we all stick together and we share these ideas and we don't attack each other and we focus on these core values of strength and freedom, then we'll get somewhere. Because remember, I explained before, as Jordan's example on Joe Rogan, you move an inch at a time. You keep pushing an inch at a time until you get where you want to be. And then maybe you pull back a little bit and then you keep pushing. That's the strategy we got to do. So I just only grabbed one comment because I was in a little bit of a rush to get here and I got a busy day. I got a bunch of editing to do. The question comment is, a few weeks ago, the CBC released an article written by a senior investigative, quote, a journalist, giving, in parentheses, giving his own opinions rather than evidence he dug up. The article pretty much was claiming that the concerns of crickets as food, the WWF influencing governments, and the federal government's 30% fertilizer ban are far-right misinformation. I wrote the Ombudsman and had a blast calling it a so-called misinformation and so-called fact-checkers. Yes, so the thing that's interesting about this is far-right is going to become the new term for objective. That's going to take, it'll take a little while. It'll take maybe 6 months, another year as well. But if they keep calling reasonable takes on issues and objective takes on issues far-right, then far-right is going to become the new positive spin, right? Like, I'll just, anytime I say something good, I'm say, here's some objectivist far-right opinions. Because the funny thing is, the people they try to label as far-right are leftists, right? Like, we see them these confused people who think they're far right, but they're racial identitarians. Racial identitarianism is a discipline of the left. It's not a discipline of the right. Right is about objectivism, small government, traditional values. Racial divisions is not traditional values. So like that guy in Richard Spencer, for example, that's his name, in the United States, the wannabe alt-right guy. He's not alt-right, he's left, because he wants the government to create social programs to mandate, to organize society based on racial divisions. He just prefers it for white people as opposed to black people. Okay, but you're still left, right? Like Hitler. Hitler was left. He was the National Socialist Workers' Party. And Professor Stephen Hicks highlights this. It's so funny. Anytime I bring it up, people are like, he was a socialist, he was far right, and blah, blah, blah. He just used the word socialist. Like, no. The Nazi Party tried to merge with the then German Socialist Party, and they couldn't come to an agreement. But Hitler liked their ideas so much that he adopted most of the policies from his platform and incorporated them into the Nazi policy platform. That's how socialist and leftist he was. He wanted to merge with the socialist party, with the actual socialist party. So all these disciplines, these racial identitarians, anytime somebody talks about race, whether they think they're right or left, think they're right or not, they are left-wing, because that is the discipline of that philosophy. So anyways, if anybody has any other questions, comments, pop it up right now. And Beth, thank you. Ryan, I appreciate it. And sorry, a little bit of a rant today, but just kind of like things to get off our head. I mean, I don't want this to be perceived as negative. Like, having a conversation is never negative, right? It's negative when you hear somebody like Blackface saying certain people are not Canadians, right? Certain people who do not divulge their medical history to the government are not Canadians. They're racist and bigots and whatever. That's negative. But us trying to come together and fix some of these problems and come up with solutions to some of these issues and support one another, that's nothing but positive. And I hope we can do more of it. And we're all going to face challenges in our day, like I did yesterday when I found out the price of what I'm going to have to deal with. But whatever. It is what it is. That's just life. And we're all so lucky to be here living in, play the long game. It's the only legit choice. We're all so fortunate to be here, to have the rights that we have, because we do have a lot more rights and freedoms than many other places in the world. We're very fortunate. We don't have to deal with paramilitaries or narcotraficos or mafia or whatever. Not to the degree as other countries, at least. And we're very fortunate for that. And because of that, we will have the ability to expand those freedoms in the future. And that's why, there are people who are going downtown, who are in cities all across Canada, who are having these rallies, and they're fighting for freedom. And coincidentally, Hannah Fudge just joined us. Hannah is one of the people at the Freedom Rally that's there every week. And we got to support them because when we push forward on the narrative of broader freedoms, that's how we're going to push back against like this Bill C11. Like, we need to demand that the Conservatives repeal this bill. And I want to hear their excuse if they say no. So people should start asking, Pierre, when will you repeal Bill C11, which you guys just voted for? Get rid of it, right? Once again, hate on the internet and people say mean things. Yeah, people say mean things everywhere. Change the channel, right? If anybody who watched Howard Stern growing up, when he went through this, who's now lost his mind and gone into the progressive communist echo chamber, the person who was fighting for free speech is now opposing it. It's amazing how people can just lose sight of their own philosophy. But when you grew up listening to that what was always the comment? If you don't like it, change the channel. It's the same thing with social media. If you don't like it, then change the channel, mute people, block people. That's it. That's just the way you deal with it. You don't go crying, say, "Oh, the government needs to help me." No, you need to help yourself, and we all need to build that inner core strength, which is what we saw in the truckers in Ottawa, because those are the people in society, if I can swear again, those are the people in society who don't give a fuck. You're not going to tell them what to do or how to behave. Within reason. They'll be respectful, and they were very, very respectful. So to my friend, the professor, who is retired and and single, I said to her, maybe you should look for a single trucker, because if you want some strength, that's where you'll find it. And I'm hoping that will lead a broader sense across the Western world, where we will become more amicable and have a greater thirst for strength. When I was in Colombia, I was going to tweet something, but I figured I wasn't in the mood to get in a fight with any activists. But I was with some friends and guys and girls and whatever. We all out and having ribs and mojitos and stuff, and went back and hung out somewhere else. And it just occurred to me, welcome to Latin America, where beauty standards and gender roles are alive and well. And that's not to say that people have to choose careers within a specific gender role. But in the broader scope of society, tradition was alive and well, and it was so refreshing to see. Unlike this lunatic, this mentally ill lunatic who is a teacher at Trafalgar School in Oakville, putting in, I don't know what he put in under his shirt. I don't know exactly what he has, but he's one step closer to free the nipple. Like, just crazy, just a lunatic. Anyways, it is what it is. And if people don't like it, I don't give a fuck. All right. If you don't like it, keep scrolling. Amanda, 100%. 100%. Because I'm going to, and what the other thing is, when we're friends with each other and we say things that maybe we disagree on issues, let's always remember that and not start attacking each other. I do see a lot of that. Like people, oh, I'm going to unfollow you. I'm unfriending you. Like, okay. Yesterday, I got into a debate over somebody in the Conservative Party because I could see they're already going down the leftist trap, trying to once again become a leftist party. And the person, I don't know who they are, I guess they were following me during the convoy, said, I'm unfollowing you now. Okay. I so don't care. Like, oh my God. This is the level of weakness that we've achieved in our society. It's really sad. Ryan said, thanks, Ryan. Rather hear your voice than Sonia. You're very sweet. I don't think anybody wants to hear Blackface's voice. My problem is my nonverbals, and I'm trying to be more cognizant of it. The ums and ahs and all that sort of stuff. I hate it. I would edit it out of podcasts all the time. And it's my nonverbal way to pause. And, when I was giving lots of speeches over and regularly, I got out of the habit. So I'm trying to get out of that habit again here. So I apologize for that. And like I said from the beginning, it's going to take me up to maybe about 100 of these live streams to really kind of get into the groove. And I thank you, all of you, for being here in the very beginning. I appreciate it. Robin says, what do you mean by beauty standards? I mean like that that teacher at Oakville High School. Those sorts of beauty standards are not exactly welcome in Latin America. It's anyways, where women can be women and men can be men. And it was amazing. Sonia, thank you. You're the best. I appreciate it. So with all of that, reminder, honkingforfreedom.locals.com. And Substack, bjdichter.substack.com. Once we have the tickets available for the book launch, which will be a live event, and there's going to be a bunch of stuff going on there. It's not going to be a boring, typical book launch where I read a chapter of the book, because who wants to see that, right? You can read the book on your own. But we will be talking about a lot of the stuff. I might even release one chapter prior to the book releasing. But if you want to come to the event, there's only going to be 183 spaces, if I'm not mistaken. Follow honkingforfreedom.locals.com. That will be the first group that will get access to tickets. There's about a few hundred people in that group. And then Substack, people who subscribe to Substack will also have the opportunity to get tickets, of which there's about 100,000 people there. And then if there's anything left over, then it'll be available to anybody. Maybe it should do people who are watching here somehow. I don't know how to do that. I don't know. Maybe I can figure out some sort of solution and sort it out. I'll work on it, but it is what it is. And all the other social media stuff, you guys know I'm on Minds, kind of. Haven't decided what to do with that. If you all go to Minds, you can take over that platform because it's just missing people. But anyways, Hannah Funch, I want to come to the book event. Thank you, sweetheart. I will let you know. I will let everybody know. And it should be a great night. So I got to run. We're way over time. I rambled way too much. I apologize. Thank you, everybody who's here. Have an amazing day. Treat everybody with kindness and love. I'm telling you, it's therapeutic. When you go into the gas station and actually have a little conversation and make the person feel better, especially people who work at night, I find. It really changes their day, and then the next time you go in, they're like, oh, yeah, they want to have a conversation with you again. So just kind of extend that to everybody as much as you can. That's how we'll get our freedom back by being loving and kind to everybody we interact with. So thank you. Everybody have a great day. Amanda, you have a great day too, and we'll talk to you soon.